Hi guys, so a few days ago I asked you what would you like me to make my next video about, and there were many requests for this topic. How do we help little ones transition into daycare situations? So that's what we're going to have a talk about today. So before we go any further, for those of you who don't know, I have 20 years experience working in childcare, and many moons ago I worked as a temp for an agency for childcare facilities. So I would be in the baby room in one facility one week, I'd be in like the wobbler room or the toddler room another week. So it gave me a great insight to how daycare situations work in Ireland. So I used to cover like leave, sickness, maternity leave, and also for families that I worked for long term, I would often be asked to help them find a childcare facility for their little ones and help their little ones transition into those daycare situations. So I have experience in that area as well. When I finish working with parents, our final call is called a close-off call, and we talk about how we transition a little baby onto a daycare schedule. So I'm going to give you similar tips to what I would be giving those parents when we're doing our close-off call. So first thing I would say is have a source of comfort. So it's exciting, but it's also scary for your little one to go from your home environment, especially children who've been born in lockdown and are really only coming out into the world the past couple of months. So having a source of comfort, so a familiar source of comfort that will help them transition into daycare will make it a little bit less scary for them. So most daycare situations will allow a Snuggie Teddy and a sleep bag to come in with their child. So pre-COVID, you used to pop those things in on a Monday in their little backpack and bring them home on a Friday for a wash. Now most daycare facilities will ask you for one for your child, and it will live there basically. So they will wash it and they will look after it. So if your child has a little friend, a little monkey friend, a little bunny friend, like you can get these lads with the blankets that hang off them, or you can get the slightly bigger one that's like from the size of your elbow to your wrist. So a little friend for them. And how do you introduce this little friend before they go into daycare? Make them fun, okay? If your child is not sleep trained and they go into the crib in a sleepful state and you have their Snuggie Teddy there, they don't even know that it's there. They're going in asleep. But if you have Snuggie Teddy present during story time, bedtime stories, Snuggie Teddy can sit up and have dinner. You can play peekaboo, hide and seek, tickle time. So really overuse it to implement it. And then once it's implemented, you can just have it at select occasions. So introduce a Snuggie Teddy to your child and make sure that you have a duplicate of that one that you can give into daycare. So when it comes to Snuggie Teddies, I always tell parents get 3 or 4 of the exact same, because if you lose one, not the end of the world. If they've a vomiting bug, you'll go through them quite quickly. So it's nice to have a spare fresh one in the end drawer as a source of comfort, especially when they're feeling a little bit rough. So that's your Snuggie Teddy. That's definitely going to help. And your sleep bag. Now, the minders in your child's room in the daycare, they're not going to be able to sing Twinkle Twinkle and say good night door, good night window, good night picture of a line, whatever it is that you do before sleep. And that's no problem. Your bedtime routine at home is different to the nap time routine in the daycare. But if there are some similarities, so the sleep bag, like obviously they'll get their nappy changed before they go to sleep, they'll have their sleep bag and their snug. So if there's some similarities, it will help your child ease into sleep. And older children are actually more adaptable because it's very much monkey see, monkey do. So they'll see all their other little buddies going into their cots and they'll follow suit. For younger children, they will get used to the new nap time routine in the daycare. So pre-12 months, most daycares, and you'll have to find out what the situation is with the facility that you have enrolled your child in, but pre-12 months, most daycare facilities will accommodate your schedule if you have one. So if you say they feed at this time and they nap at this time and you're providing the food, generally speaking, that's doable. After 12 months, most daycare facilities move your child onto their own schedule. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is after 12 months, most daycares do dinner, at 11:30. 12 if you're lucky, but most of them are around 11:30. So you're talking like cottage pie lasagna at 11:30 in the morning. Then they change their nappies and then they put them down for their nap. So with such an early nap, so like 11:30, 12 o'clock nap, with such an early nap, it's very difficult to get a morning nap in there and be tired enough for this nap. So it's difficult to squeeze 2 naps into that short window unless your child's been up since 5:30, which is something we don't want. But in childcare facilities, they have activities laid out. So they have free play, and then they'll have like really active play like music or garden, and then they'll have like, you know, instructional led play where they're at the table and they're given colors or Play-Doh or blocks, you know, so quieter play. So they're not go, go, go from the moment they entered the door. They do try and vary it up a bit. So the morning nap drops away between 13 and 15 months for most children. So most children are on 2 naps a day until between 13 and 15 months. When your child enters daycare, very difficult to squeeze in that morning nap with such an early big nap. So we hope that around the mid-morning snack, they either get the opportunity to have a little snooze or they have quiet time and it's enough to get them to their big nap. So if they have dinner at 11:30, it just goes against what feels natural. Even when I worked in childcare and I'd be like given literally like cottage pie at 11:30, I'd be like, this just feels wrong. But I understand why they have to do it. They've so many children that they have to look after, and it just, you know, easier for them to offer the food at those times. But we just have to be aware of it. So if they offer dinner at 11:30 and then they change nappies and they go down for their nap at 12, if you've a strong sleeper, hopefully they'll sleep till 2. If your child is on a 7 to 7 schedule and they wake up at 2, depending on their age, most children are not going to be able to make it till 7 o'clock. So they'll have to go to bed around 6:30. And when I tell parents this, they're like, but I'm going back to work. That means I've only got like an hour with my child when I come home from work. You know, I pick them up and I'm like, you can have an hour of quality time and a good night's sleep, or you can have 2 hours of stress and crying and your child's a little monkey because they're gone overtired and a ripple effect into your night and have a bad night. So like, you're paying a small fortune for this child to be cared for in daycare. We have to realize that they've been awake since maybe 1:30 or 2 o'clock. By 6:30, they're wall falling with tiredness. They're ready to drop. And if we push them beyond what they can handle, they are going to go to bed overtired. And a child who goes to bed in an overtired state normally has multiple wake up. They fight sleep. They can have multiple wake ups before midnight and they have a super early start the next day. So they enter in like an overtired cycle, which is no fun for anyone. So we just have to be aware of that. Do you have to put your child on the same schedule as your creche schedule? If your child is in there 5 days a week and they nap 12 to 2 in daycare, you could nap 12:30 to 2:30 at home. So it's close, but it's not the same. But I wouldn't be on home days 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock if on daycare they're 12 to 2, because you'll lose your body clock. You lose the rhythm if you had one before they entered. So entering into childcare, if you're on a 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock nap, start to bring that slowly backwards. If your child is around the 12-month age, you can offer the morning nap, but it's only a short morning nap, knowing that the childcare facility may not be able to facilitate your child's morning nap when they go in there if they're 12 months plus. But ask them, see what they can do. I find from working in creches, and I also have friends who work in daycare facilities, the daycare is often led by the kitchen because the food has to be hot and ready. So if your daycare facility is providing the meals, the meal times often dictate the nap time. So the people in that work, the minders who work in the wobbler room, are working around that schedule. So everything is kind of related to everything else. So all we can do is be aware of what is realistic, what they can do in there, but what we can do on home days. So on home days, you could have a half an hour wiggle room, but I wouldn't go too much greater than that. I would still have my cutoff point from my nap my big nap at like 3:15. Some children are in like a sleep deficit after starting daycare, and they need almost a catch up, and you'll find that they nap better on home days after they've started daycare because they're just so tired. Like they've been in Disneyland. It's go, go, go. It's very entertaining. It's fantastic for their social skills, developmental skills. It's brilliant to have them in that situation. But when we don't have control of the naps, that can be a worrying kind of point for a lot of parents. So I would say if you have a strong sleeper who normally gets about 2.5 hours at home, and they can get like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes in daycare, happy days. But you may have to bring your bedtime earlier because they're not going to be able to cope until their usual 7, 7:15 bedtime, because they're up so early in daycare. Now, if your daycare facility is a good drive or a good buggy walk from your home, there's a chance that your little one will have a micro nap on the way home, which is like, woo, definitely a danger nap in this situation. So I made a video about that the other day. If your child nods off at like 5:30 upon pickup, it can definitely eat into your sleep pressure for bedtime, and you'll find bedtime really tricky. So what can we do there? We can make sure they don't have a big heavy jacket on in the car. You can roll the windows down a bit. I used to sing The Wheels on the Bus at the top of my voice and get them to join in. I don't give snacks in the car. I'm a bit of a safety Sally. I'm like, no, I'm not giving you a snack because I can't see what's going on. But I do try and engage with them, talk to them, maybe give them a toy to play with or hold, or just trying to talk to them. If I'm ringing my friend, I'm going to look in the rearview mirror, the safety mirror, and they are going to be asleep. So try and kind of keep them with you on that drive home. If they do sleep, wake them up as soon as you get in the door, and you'll probably have to push bedtime about 45 minutes or so later to compensate. So it's not ideal at that time. And when that happens, when you try and wake them up, they're very groggy and they're not happy because they were just falling into the sleep that they really needed. So it's not ideal. I have a few pointers here in case you wonder why I'm looking down, just to make sure that I cover everything. So yeah, so another point about daycare is children who don't feed well during daycare. So again, they have dinner at 11:30. They may wake up at 2 and have a little snack, and then they have like a tea time at 3, or they may have their tea time at 4:30, depending on the facility that your child is going to. So find out what they're eating and when. Most will give you a log. Some are very modern now, and it's on a little app and you can log in anytime and see what they're eating. And you'll often see full plate, half plate, none, or something like this. If in doubt, don't come in the door and try and like make yourself like a big home cooked meal. Your child has missed you and they just want you at that time. So you banging around with pots and pans and trying to get a dinner on, and you've got a very sensitive, tired child, I would say come in the door, up at the worktop or the table, and something quick and easy. It's not the time to be testing new foods at that time of the day. You want to go with something that's going to fill the gap. So if they didn't eat well, you've kind of ticked that box and said, well, you're not going to bed hungry. So it could be something like you're talking like carbs and protein. So like scrambled eggs, or banana has melatonin in it. Some bubbas have banana, some have porridge before they go to bed. So choose your battles. This is not the time to try new foods, but you do want something that's slow releasing and filling at that time of the evening, but not something that's going to cause tears. So I would be like in the door, up at the table, then more or less going towards the bedtime routine. They may come in the door and go, oh, my toys, I haven't seen them all day. And they go crazy. And when a parent says to me, Kelly, it's like they get the second wind when they come in the door, that for me is like, whoa, we're going overtired. So they may have been drifting in the car, slightly recharged the batteries, and then they go overtired again, making bedtime a little bit difficult. So we have to be aware that they have been quite busy and active and stimulated all day long. By the time you get your hands on them at like half 4, half 5, whatever time your pickup is, they're sensitive. They've been playing all day. So going out into the garden at that time is not ideal for a young child. So I would be like, up at the table, here's a little tea time, have that one-on-one time that they're really craving at that time, and then start your bedtime routine soon after. So if time allows, you can do some quiet play and then start your bedtime routine. Sleep and childcare. If you're constantly getting your child handed back and it's like they only had half an hour sleep there today, that would be worrying for me, because find out what your child's recommended guideline for sleep. So we'll say, for example, a child who's 14 months old, their recommended guideline for sleep in order to protect their immune system and for the brain development is around 11 to 12 hours sleep at night, and in and around 2.5 hours during the day. If you're getting handed back your little one and they've only had a half an hour sleep, like, childcare is childcare. We're caring for the children and we're trying to help them. Obviously, this minder's not going to be rocking your child for 2 hours like you do, but is there something else we can do to see? Can we push the nap a little bit earlier or a little bit later, or split the nap and offer 2 naps? Like, if you got your child handed back and they said they only had like 3 raisins to eat today, there you go. You'd be like, well, that's very worrying. 3 raisins, not much in 3 raisins, But if we got handed back a child like, well, they'd only 40 minutes sleep today, if that was to happen on a very regular basis, I would be talking to the minder and seeing if you guys can come up with a plan to see if you can get more sleep. So sleep is just as important as nutrition to a child, and they need it, especially without, we're coming into winter. And it will help protect their immune system. And it means the difference between having like a joy when you pick them up in the evening, or a wasp. Let's face it. Okay. So if you're finding that on your report or on your app or just your handover with the minder that you're having very short naps, have a chat with them, see if there's something that they can do. And when I worked in daycare situations, and I may have been there covering like, maternity leave or something, if a parent made a request and it may not have made complete sense to me, I would still try and accommodate their request. So if they're like, well, could you try to do this at this time today? I would try my utmost. I couldn't guarantee anything. I've got other kiddos to mind, but I would definitely take it on board. That's what I'm being paid to do, to mind these children while these parents are going to work. So get your Snuggie Teddy and your sleep bag, find out the daycare schedule that you're going into, start moving your home schedule slightly towards it, but doesn't have to be exact. Find out their feeding schedule. Are they going to need something big when they come home or something small? And anything else? Oh yeah, so when your child starts daycare, like most daycare facilities will encourage like a settling in period, and I do suggest that you follow the guidelines. They've been doing this for a long time. One of the biggest things I would say to anyone who is sending their child into daycare is don't go straight back to work, because it's so common that when your child, I'm not scaremongering, it is just part of life, okay? When your child goes into a daycare situations, they're going to get hammered and they're going to, probably be off sick within the couple of weeks of starting. So, and it's nothing worse than going back to work and then be like, have to go, you're only back in 2 days and you're running out the door. So let them get nice and settled if possible. So if you have like a 4-month-old and daycare is like way down the line, you've got plenty of time to think about this. If you're already, set to go back to work and your child is going into daycare, it is what it is. But if you've got time to plan ahead, I would say don't plan to go back to work the week after your child starts daycare. See if you can have a couple of weeks before you go back to work. You'll enjoy those couple of weeks as well. But rather than, child starting daycare and then you're only back in work and then you're in and out, and especially when there's temperatures now, it's like, you're COVID testing and you're having a good week off work. Now, if you're working from home, it's a different situation. But if you're working from home and you're caring for a sick little one because they got a little cough or cold in crash, that's going to, cause disruption there. So just be mindful of that when you're making your daycare plan and also your return to work plan. I think that's everything. I hope you found this useful, and I'll hope to make another video soon. All the best. Sweet dreams.